Tonight, unease in South America and the oil plans spilling around the globe. Canadians protest for a peaceful transition of power in Venezuela.
Our legitimate leader is Edmundo Gonzalez and Maria Corina Machado.
And what U.S. plans for Venezuelan oil could mean for this country. Plus, a fresh perspective on your glory years. Who can expect to live longer, but who's living in good health? And Quebec's new civility rules in the classroom.
Some people, they're like more respectful, they'd be like saying vous, but some, they'd be like toi, madame.
Faced with more formal language, why schools are focused on vous rather than tu.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. We begin with developing news out of Syria, where the U.S. military says it has carried out another round of large-scale strikes against multiple ISIS targets. The U.S. military is saying at least 35 targets were hit in the operation. The strikes were part of Operation Hawkeye Strike, which was ordered by Donald Trump last month after an ISIS attack killed 3 Americans. Venezuela has released a number of imprisoned opposition figures and activists. President Donald Trump tonight hailed the release and said it came at Washington's request. The situation in that country top of mind for many in Canada who rallied in the nation's capital. CTV's Jeremy Sharon reports.
In Canada's capital today,
Maduro is not and has never been the legitimate president of Venezuela.
Venezuelan Canadians calling for the release of all political prisoners and a peaceful transition to democracy back home.
Our legitimate leader is Edmundo Gonzalez and Maria Corina Machado. They won the election in 2024, and we want them to be the ones that are in power because we voted for them.
A call echoed in similar rallies around the world today following the U.S.'s capture of Nicolas Maduro on Venezuelan soil last week, a move bringing both hope and uncertainty.
What is the next government? Where's democracy? We are in the very early stages of a very uncertain future.
Donald Trump has vowed to run Venezuela until a safe and proper transition of power can happen. That includes running the country's natural resources. The president yesterday met with oil executives in Washington, where he said China and Russia will now be able to get all the oil they need from the U.S.
These great American companies can help rapidly rebuild Venezuela's dilapidated oil industry and bring millions of barrels of oil production to benefit the United States, the people of Venezuela, and the entire world.
China has long been one of Venezuela's largest oil customers, and as Trump vies for its business, this former Canadian oil executive says it could go to Canada, which he says now more than ever needs to diversify.
More Venezuelan oil ends up in the U.S. Gulf Coast. That means somebody is short oil, and they're looking to buy more. That's probably China. China can buy more oil from us.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to travel to China this week as Canada looks to boost its trade with Asia's largest economy.
Canada has to be careful not to be caught between, these two great powers that are kind of circling one another, trying to figure out where they're going to land.
Carney's visit will be the first by a Canadian Prime Minister since 2017 and is expected to focus on trade, energy, agriculture, and international security. Heather?
Thanks, Jeremy. CTV's Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa. Protests against American intervention in Venezuela also taking shape in Mexico today. Demonstrators denouncing what they call foreign interference and threats to regional security. These protests coming a day after Donald Trump threatened to carry out military land strikes inside Mexico, he says, to target drug cartels. Thousands of demonstrators have flooded into the streets of Minneapolis to protest the fatal shooting of a woman by a U.S. immigration officer.
No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here.
The 37-year-old was killed during a confrontation with an Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, officer on Wednesday.
ICE is here, and they're leaving blood all over our state.
This is a moment in our history where people need to stand up for something.
The city's mayor calling for calm after 29 protesters were arrested in clashes with police Friday night.
We will not counter Donald Trump's chaos with our own brand of chaos here.
Rallies and protests also held in major cities around the U.S., including the capital.
This is just going too far.
I expect more of it to happen unless we, the people, come out and stand up and say that this is not acceptable.
Despite the protests, more than 2,000 officers remain deployed in Minnesota in what the Trump administration is calling its biggest ever immigration enforcement operation.
Get the out of our city, you Nazi piece of.
Anti-government protests once again sweeping through Iran, even as officials escalate threats against demonstrators. Massive crowds filled the streets of Tehran today. The protests began 2 weeks ago over inflation before calling for regime change. Security forces have reportedly been cracking down on groups meeting them with violence. Ottawa has advised Canadians to avoid travel to Iran and for those in the country to leave as soon as possible. Protests also happening across Canada in support of the demonstrations in Iran. In Vancouver, rain didn't stop a large crowd from showing their solidarity and calling on the Canadian government to support Iranians.
They need to back the Iranian people. They need to be behind us. They need to be our voices.
A similar demonstration also held this afternoon in downtown Toronto, where protesters said they are particularly concerned about the internet blackout imposed by Tehran, limiting the information coming out of Iran. Health officials in the U.S. are raising the alarm bell tonight over a major spike in measles cases in South Carolina.
This is a very concerning situation because there really is evidence of community spread. Measles is truly one of the most contagious viruses that are known to man.
Over 300 cases are being reported across the state, and the majority in people between 5 and 17 years old. Some cases are being traced to travel-related exposure. Hundreds of other people have been placed under quarantine, with the outbreak spilling to other states. The outbreak comes as the Trump administration takes a major shift in health policy. The Center for Disease Control changing its protocol this week for certain vaccines it recommends for children. CTV's Kamal Karamali on why that has Canadian doctors worried of the ripple effect on this side of the border.
Today is the day Lux Kugatasan gets to take his newborn home from this hospital just outside Toronto. But with a wife and now 2 sons, all immunocompromised, his new task is to make sure everyone is protected.
We have to not just rely on ourselves to be isolated, but we also have to rely on society to be vaccinated too.
But earlier this week, the U.S. Center for Disease Control said it's cutting the number of vaccines it universally recommends for all children from 17 now down to 11, no longer recommending protection against COVID-19, hepatitis A and B, influenza, rotavirus, RSV, and meningococcal disease.
This was just incomprehensibly stupid.
Now, doctors in Canada not only concerned those diseases will spread at a faster pace in the U.S., but American travelers will carry them across the Canadian border.
The more unvaccinated people there are around, the higher the risk of disease transmission.
With vaccine hesitancy already on the rise, the U.S. policy could create even more reluctance here to get immunized.
It basically causes people to question how safe and how necessary all the vaccines are.
Take some big breaths.
Here at the Markham Stouffville Hospital outside Toronto, worry more disease spread could weaken an already overburdened healthcare system.
Are you concerned of an increase in patients for you and others?
Yeah, we always worry that it could have an extra burden on our healthcare system. It also can have implications on how patients are managed. So, if somebody has a certain condition and they have to be put on isolation, that can also take away resources.
Health Canada says even though U.S. policies don't affect Canada's decisions on vaccines, there is a need here for more targeted interventions, including strengthened follow-up and reminder systems as well as improved access. This new father, though, not taking any chances. Does this affect whether you'll go to the U.S. or not?
Definitely.
Joining many Canadians already avoiding travel to the U.S. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Markham, Ontario.
Canadians have a quest to live longer and healthier, with many thriving later in life. Women continue to outlive men while also spending more years in good health. CTV's Garrett Barry has more on what's behind the numbers.
There's a little locomotion every week in the corner of the St. John's Farmers Market, drawing some eyeballs. This free exercise class aims to be as open as possible.
So in a chair gives anybody who has mobility issues the opportunity to do that. It's a chance to meet people. You know, we're in a market, it's busy, we're hanging out.
It's all about keeping people moving and keeping people connected.
Elaine brings me a certain kind of peace. She makes me very aware of my body, things that are going on in my body, and I love it. It's fun.
This impulse to bring people together may be in even greater need. New data released by Statistics Canada shows the overall health of Canadians, measured by how many healthy years of living they can expect, fell between 2012 and 2023.
We should be alert, aware, and investigate. Now, do I have my hand on the panic button? Not yet, but maybe it's hovering above the panic button.
In 2023, Canadian women had a life expectancy of 84 years on average. For men, it was just under 80, but the healthy periods in an average lifespan are considerably less, and they're falling. In 2012, Canadians could expect to live over 70 healthy years on average. In 2023, according to this new data, the number has fallen to 66.9. Dr. Esme Fuller-Thompson said even the small decline is worthy of further investigation. It's not yet clear why exactly this measure of life expectancy is falling, but she believes complications from COVID-19 infections and the lingering changes to society that the pandemic brought are surely contributors.
The pandemic was really problematic. Living apart is not how humans are meant to be.
Classes like this may be part of the answer, but Fuller-Thompson said even simple moments of connection, like saying hi to your regular barista, can go a long way. Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
I'm Paul Hollingsworth in Halifax, tonight on CTV National News. Skepticism as new numbers suggest food inflation is improving in parts of Canada.
Can you believe anything these days?
Where prices are shrinking the least and the most. Tonight on CTV National News and ctvnews.ca.
The high cost of groceries is having a crushing impact on Canadians across the country. Making matters worse, recent statistics show some areas in Canada are dealing with steeper rates of food inflation compared to others. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth on who is facing the biggest increase.
A father of four and a busy shopper, Jean-Marc Leblanc has noticed shrinkflation is now part of his shopping routine. Smaller packaging at higher prices.
I'm spending $6 for that when it's maybe 33% less of a quantity.
Based on year-over-year price changes for food products across all Canadian provinces, New Brunswick had the highest increase at 3.7%. Nova Scotia was the lowest at 2.7%. The national average across the 10 provinces and 3 territories was 3.4%.
I've noticed a steady increase.
Dalhousie University professor and food distribution researcher Sylvain Charlebois says the drop in gas prices have lowered the cost of transporting food, which brings a positive effect in remote areas like Nova Scotia more than other provinces. Federal and provincial tax cuts and the GST holiday cut into food inflation rates depending on the province.
Our break was like 14%, and in New Brunswick it was 15%, I believe, and in Ontario as well. But most provinces, the break was only 5%.
According to Charlebois, one of the biggest challenges for regions like Atlantic Canada are interprovincial trade barriers that have a direct impact on transportation costs and the overall price of food. In all provinces, the price of grapes, berries, coffee, and ground beef are going up on a monthly basis, which makes this shopper skeptical when it comes to receiving good news related to inflation.
Can you believe anything these days?
He anticipates prices to climb even higher and will continue to be a selective shopper searching for the best bargains. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Fall River, Nova Scotia.
The high cost of living has many people changing their habits, and that includes dining out less. Now, a new study suggests thousands of restaurants across Canada could close this year, and the country already saw plenty of closures in 2025. CTV's Kimberly Johnson looks at the challenges facing people on both sides of the counter.
Al's Diner has been serving up breakfast for 36 years. Over that time, owner Al Ayoub says his industry has seen challenges, and right now is a tough time.
Your bottom line gets smaller and smaller. You want to raise your prices, so you take a chance and scare people away. I'm not one to do that.
He says increasing food prices and wages are his biggest expenses. To keep costs down, Ayoub shops around and says owning his building has helped a lot. With plenty of dedicated customers, Al's Diner is not at risk of closing. But a new study suggests thousands of other restaurants could be forced to close this year.
I feel sorry for the ones that can't adapt to it. There's a lot of restaurants out there that are struggling and having a hard time.
A new study from Dalhousie University shows that more than 4,000 restaurants in Canada are projected to close this year. That's after 7,000 bistros, cafes, and eateries shut their doors in 2025.
And what we're seeing right now are consumers under tremendous financial pressure. They're having a hard time buying food at the grocery store, so they're not spending as much time in food service.
Restaurants Canada says other major costs for establishments include rent and insurance. It says 41% of restaurants are operating at a loss or barely breaking even, but are working to keep costs low because they know customers are budgeting. As costs mount, some customers say they plan on making changes.
I probably plan on eating out less. It's gotten really expensive. It's nice to go once in a while, though.
I would say probably about the same, but spending less. Looking for cafes rather than full restaurants, looking for snacks rather than full meals.
Kimberly Johnson, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, united by cyberbullying. The troubling situation linking an Ontario woman and France's First Lady. The new year has brought vindication for an Ontario woman who faced years of humiliating online attacks. And another high-profile criminal cyberbullying case has ended with 10 guilty verdicts. But as CTV's Andrew Johnson shows us, experts say the path to justice for victims of digital harassment is most often a difficult one.
Almost every day for 2 years, Kim Bowie and her Sudbury, Ontario business were the targets of vicious attacks on social media.
I would not want anyone would ever have to go through what I went through.
Across the world, Bowie has something in common with the First Lady of France. Brigitte Macron endured years of false conspiracy theories surrounding her gender and sexuality, including allegations the mother of 3 was born a male. On Monday, a Paris court found 10 people guilty of cyberbullying Macron. Their punishments range from awareness training to 8-month suspended prison sentences. In Sudbury, Bowie sued for damages. She and another victim have now been awarded $1.5 million. But despite these fresh examples of the courts delivering a measure of justice, one tech strategist and lawyer says when it comes to trying to fight online harassment, that is not the norm.
I need to emphasize the fact that it is very rare. Unfortunately, when it comes to these types of matters, they're extremely complex.
Adding civil lawsuits related to online defamation have a very low success rate. In criminal cases, police may hit jurisdictional roadblocks tracking out-of-country IP addresses and sourcing data from social media platforms. The best advice if you're being targeted:
You want to preserve the evidence. Secondly, you want to connect with the platform. There's something called a takedown request to potentially take down the type of defamatory material that may be there. If you know the individual, you may want to send them a cease and desist letter.
And if you can, contact a lawyer. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Classic rock fans are mourning the death of one of the founding members of the Grateful Dead.
One of these days, then they better be gone out of the door and down of the street, oh Lord.
Bob Weir sang and played guitar with the legendary San Francisco band from their beginning in 1965 until they broke up 30 years later. Since then, he performed with his band Rat Dog and participated in numerous reunions with other former members. Weir's website says he died of lung issues related to a cancer diagnosis. Bob Weir was 78. Another legendary musician being remembered today, a mural to David Bowie, who passed away on this date 10 years ago, turning into a makeshift memorial as fans paid their respects. Bowie is one of the best-selling artists of all time, with 26 studio albums and 4 Grammys to his name, and maintains a legion of devoted fans to this day. Still ahead, a new lesson plan in Quebec. The changes made to help instill respect in the classroom. New rules have come into effect in Quebec schools. All students from kindergarten up are now formally required to address teachers using terms of respect, including Mr. or Mrs., but also, when speaking French, the word vous. Here's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin on how this translates in the classroom.
The lesson plan across Quebec is to enforce rules of civility. Now, terms of respect are already in the books in many classrooms, say these high school students.
Yeah, we say madame or monsieur and we say their name afterwards, their last name.
Yeah, that's true. It's because for respect the elders. Yeah.
Do you always do it?
Most of the times.
But the government wants it to be all of the time, in all grades, all classrooms.
It's a show of respect for the...
More respect, Quebec hopes, could help curb growing violence in schools.
The teachers know best.
Some say the government is missing the mark, focusing on semantics rather than tackling the real issues.
Yeah, respect is important, but what we really need is we need help on the ground for teachers that are really struggling.
Le cours est commencé. And in French, there's an added twist of the tongue. Students are no longer to use the word tu. That's the informal word for you when addressing teachers. Instead, they're to use the honorific vous.
Vous is the more polite form that we use with people we don't know, people who are older than us, people who have power.
Some experts say expecting kindergarten children to adopt social linguistic norms is a tall order.
5 or 6, the right age to be learning that when you're having to learn so many things. I have doubts about that.
Even among high schoolers, applying the rule isn't always easy.
Some people, they're more respectful, they be saying vous, but some, they be toi, madame,
Students who break the rules will face warnings, repeat offenders will be suspended or even expelled. But teachers say there will be some flexibility in how the lesson on rules of civility is applied. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
That is our newscast for this Saturday. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.